Viva Denver, viva! Viva! Viva Denver, viva! Comrades, without any waste of time, you know in Africa, they say leaders will always take their time. The first thing they do when they address you, they start by apologizing for being delayed. Now we are not like that in our space, like we requested you to adjourn so that we receive the Secretary General of the Revolutionary Organization that at some point adopted the elephant approach. Those of you who knows how the elephant behaves, you will understand. The only time the elephant runs, you must know there is crisis. For the fact that the ANC is still walking with this best day today, this organization of the expelled SG of the ANC. I'm not sure the hometown man to the sitting SG. Insofar as Free State politics are concerned, I'm not there. I'm going to take this opportunity quickly when I respond to the call give to the Deputy General Secretary of the National Union of Mine Workers to introduce and at the same time to deliver to you our guest speaker in this NEC as per your resolution, the Secretary General of the African National Congress, the product of the youth. We have all seen him there. Thank you very
much, FDP. You have almost done the part.
Oh, yeah.
Comrades, who have been visited and been blessed by the presence of the former Secretary General of the ANC Youth League, the former President of the ANC Youth League. He has served in various departments of government. He has been committed to serve the ANC with loyalty and with trust. At least it's one of those comrades of ours of the ANC that we can believe in and trust today. The comrade who's joining us is currently the SG, the Secretary General of the ANC. We are not going to use all other names. Today we are strictly using Fikile Mbalula. Thank you, SG. Over to you. You can address the National Executive Committee of the NUM. The NUM is structured differently, SG. We are having what we call regions here, not necessarily provinces. To an extent that apartheid has impacted on us, we still have regions that are called Northeast. One comrade from one of our regions, also called Highveld, he's calling them the directions, not the regions. So he's saying these are just directions, are not really the names of the regions. So we're having Carltonville region, that is in the far west of West Rand. We're having Eastern Cape, we'll call it a region, but the demarcation is allowing them to operate across the province. Ordinarily, we could call them province. We're also having Free State. Also, they were lucky because they are operating across the province. They used to be sharing borders with part of Northern Cape, but now they are doing Free State alone. And we are having that region called Highveld, another direction as well, that is in the area of Metal up to Nelspruit, the capital city of Mpumalanga. And we are also having Kimberley region. We call it Kimberley. You know that Kimberley was a mining town. It's your neighbor town there of province, not far from Free State. We are also having KZN. KZN equally, it's more of a province, but we still call it a region. And we are also having Matlosana. Matlosana is your Klerksdorp area, those mining towns. Also equally, we could not call it Northwest because there's another region that is called Rustenburg. Also, that is the Platinum Belt. So these regions, they tend to overlap to other provinces. That's why we cannot call them by provinces. And we are having the PWV, your second home, Gauteng. They're operating in all regions of Gauteng. Because of Carltonville, they cannot call themselves Gauteng. Then the last region that we are having is Western Cape. That is also clearly a province, but we are still calling it a region. It's operating across the entire province of Western Cape. People who are here are chairpersons and secretaries of those regions, chairperson of the women's structure and secretary of the women's structure, the youth structure chairperson and the secretary, and all 9 office bearers of the NL. Thank you very much. Over to you.
I speak from here. Okay. Oh, it's broken.
Is this thing working?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you very much, Comrade Program Director. The leadership of the National Union of Mine Workers, led by President Comrade Daniel Balepile, the leadership and other guests who are present here, and the members of the National Executive Committee of the National Union of Mine Workers, comrades and friends. Comrades, on behalf of the African National Congress, National Executive Committee, and its entire movement, we convey our warm revolutionary greetings to the progressive workers of our country. We are here, comrades, to express our support and solidarity to you and your struggles in the pursuit for better working conditions. We are here because your battles are our battles, and indeed an injury to one is an injury to all. And the fact that you invited us here today is a firm recognition about the ties, the bonds, and the bond, which is born out of struggle between the African National Congress and the National Union of Mine Workers. The fact that on your own you can still remember that there is the African National Congress, which we represent here today, is a very significant point in terms of the evolution of these relations between the two organizations. We are here, therefore, not as guests invited to address a foreign organization. Rather, we speak here with our own, and the bond of our alliance was founded in the trenches of struggle against racial, class, and gender oppression. This occasion is taking place at the tail end of the month, dedicated to highlight the struggle for women emancipation. It is not the only month wherein we advance women emancipation, but one in which we make concerted advocacy more than in any other month. We need more action-oriented programs to empower and uplift women and the girl child to be accorded their rightful place in all aspects of their lives, be it in the economy, politics, society, workplace, home, sports, arts and culture, and everywhere. As the Alliance, we must celebrate the role played by women by fast-tracking radical socio-economic transformation. Likewise, comrades, we must collectively aim for women involvement in the mining sector, both as workers and mine owners. It is important that we highlight quantitatively the strides made and the backlogs addressed in the pursuit of gender-oriented transformation. Comrades, we wish to reflect on geopolitical developments. We meet at a time when the shifts in the geopolitical tectonic plates assumed a pace that is rapidly redefining our world. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has affected the global economy in tremendous ways. And as South Africa, we've been involved in advancing the cause of peace. In this regard, President Cyril Ramaphosa communicated effectively our message that we are non-aligned and are anti-war through the African Leadership Peace Initiative. Our role as South Africa in this regard, comrades, was welcomed by both President Zelensky of Ukraine and President Putin of Russia. We have just emerged also from two important international gatherings. Firstly, the BRICS Political Parties Plus Dialogue, and secondly, the BRICS Summit. The first was our event as the ANC to galvanize the progressive agenda globally in general and in the African continent in particular. We championed the cause for increased BRICS membership, which was adopted at the government event of the BRICS Summit. This BRICS Summit, comrades, will be remembered historically as a turning point in the geopolitical reconfiguration of our world. With South Africa playing a critical role, we have said this is not counterweight against any other formation such as the G7, but pursuit of progressive agenda, consolidating the emergence of a multipolar world as opposed to the unipolar world, and thereby advancing the cause of multilateralism as opposed to unilateralism. Amongst the instruments to break the backbone of unilateralism is exploring the adoption of different payment systems other than SWIFT, as well as alternative currencies. We are now talking about de-dollarization. And in the spirit of Marx and Engels, comrades, call for workers of the world to unite because they have nothing to lose but their chains. It's the same, that is what applies to progressive internationalism. South Africa historically, comrades, when we reflect on the labor movement today, is synonymous with the mining sector. The exploitation of minerals in South Africa was synonymous with the exploitation of workers, the working class, and the racial suppression of the black majority in general and Africans in particular. Whilst we are faced with international challenges as a country, we are also at a stage when we need to deepen our grasp of radical and accelerated national transformation. Historically, we have, as the mass democratic movement, relied on NUM, which has also always represented the workers at the shop floor as part of the motive forces of the national democratic revolution. As we go into election mode towards the national general elections next year, we can confidently declare that with all the difficulties involved in the democratic dispensation has brought some of the most progressive laws to protect and advance the rights of workers. At the tail end of 30 years of democracy, we can confidently declare that the alliance led by the ANC championed the constitution that did not only secure the rights, but guaranteed them. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, number 108 of 1996, guarantees the basic conditions of employment, Act number 75 of 1997, Labor Relations Act, and many others provide non-negotiable rights for workers since the dawn of democracy. More specifically on the mining sector, we have championed the Mine Health and Safety Act and put in place processes to ensure multi-stakeholder engagement towards achieving our goals in this regard. We must amplify the messages of these benefits to workers when some paint a gloomy picture on what has been achieved in the 3 decades since the 1994 democratic breakthrough. We have also laid the ground for the fundamental transformation of the sector by enacting into law the Mineral and the Petroleum Resources Development Act of 2002, which fulfilled the aspirations of the Freedom Charter by vesting all mineral rights into the custody of the state on behalf of all our people. We must utilize these instruments to accelerate transformation in the mining sector, particularly with regards to black and women ownership of mining companies. There is an onslaught, comrades, against black economic empowerment, with some taking to court aspects pertaining the Mining Charter, as well as the Employment Equity Act. We must unite to defend these rights and to advance legislative amendments that will withstand such legal challenges. We are the first to say we must not rest on our laurels, as these hard-fought rights, which need to be protected and guarded at all material times. The ANC as a disciplined force of the left, the party as the vanguard of the working class, and COSATU as the voice of the workers, should work together to protect and advance these gains that the workers have enjoyed since the dawn of democracy. On the upcoming elections, notwithstanding all other attended challenges, we hereby report to you that we are going to these elections much stronger, with all our leagues having convened their conferences and having elected legitimate structures. We have managed to intervene in Sanko disputes and reach consensus on the legitimate interim leadership. Although we face some challenges, the alliance is in a healthy state, and we aim to strengthen the alliance secretariat as the pivot of our alliance work. We approach these elections, comrades, not aiming for coalitions, but for an outright electoral victory, so that we can accelerate radical national transformation. Our ultimate claim to power through the ballot must be the evidence of radical socio-economic transformation in all areas of our economy and society. To achieve our victory, we are going to need all of us to put our shoulders on the wheel. We believe that the NUM and COSATU as a whole is key component in mobilizing the workers. We will be engaging the masses of our people through the process of the 2019 manifesto implementation report back, starting with the launch this coming weekend at Dobsonville Stadium to be addressed by the President. The process will then move to provinces, regions, and ultimately at the VD level. As we will be embarking on the 2019 election manifesto report back, we will be taking stock of the strides that our movement attained during the current government administration under the leadership of President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa. This process, comrades, is necessary for the ANC to engage our people and to make their voices heard and be reflected in the final manifesto for 2024. We are the only parliament of the people, not just as the ANC, but as the Alliance. Comrades, we need to undertake this process to address the narrative that is being entrenched on a daily basis in our society, that the African National Congress has done nothing to advance the agenda of social transformation in our country. We are doing this also in a modest way to give a full account about practically what are the things that we have done as the African National Congress to achieve what we promised to do as the ANC. We normally do this when we launch the manifesto, but we wanted to give ourselves time. Our term of office is not yet over. It will be over when the president announces the date, and then when we get to the ballot, that term of office will be over. So we know that there are a number of challenges that are facing us. As we give this account, we acknowledge those, and also report on how we are going to speed up the process to address some of the challenges that we are facing. Comrades, our alliance is organically built over many years. It stood the test of time and serious challenges in difficult times, and will certainly continue for many years to come. Our organizations have converged towards the shared objective of building a national democratic society through the solidarity forged on the platform of the National Democratic Revolution. As Comrade O.R. Tambo summed it up, ours is not merely a paper alliance created at conference tables and formalized through the signing of documents and representing only an agreement of leaders. Our alliance is a living organism that has grown out of the struggle. The ANC reaffirmed in its April 2023 NEC that without the Revolutionary Alliance, working together with a broad front of progressive social organizations and movements, the transformation of South Africa and the National Democratic Revolution will be in grave danger. The alliance of the ANC, the SACP and COSATU and SANCO constitutes the core of what we must defend in the National Democratic Revolution. It is a strategic alliance that is founded on the achievements of the ideals elaborated through the National Democratic Society. Ours, comrades, is not a coalition of parties that have come together to pursue short-term, narrow goals or merely share the exploits of power, but the historic mission to liberate our people from racism, sexism, class inequality, and underdevelopment. At the 2017 Strategy and Tactics documents, I quote, we said, in the current phase, there is a need for and the role of this revolutionary alliance is indisputable. However, the forms that the alliance can and should assume require further reflection in the light of experience under the democratic dispensation, close quote. We have long been grappling with the form the alliance should take in the democratic era. Now, after the experience of nearly 3 decades of democracy, we have agreed on the need for the alliance to be strengthened to ensure that it remains relevant and effective in pursuing the NDR under the conditions and into the future. Coalitions, comrades. Our engagement with other political parties in the coalition dialogue that was convened by the Deputy President, Comrade Paul Mashatile, was aimed at restoring order in local government municipalities. Our posture on coalitions at local government level is informed by ensuring delivery of services to our people, which has often suffered as political parties clamor for positions and so on. These coalitions are not the best instruments to drive the National Democratic Revolution and the developmental agenda. They can undermine the National Democratic Revolution. We have experienced this in many municipalities like the city of Tshwane, whereby the DA-led coalition has reversed all the work of the ANC and placed limitations on the socio-economic transformation agenda. Coalitions have led to the breakdown and collapse of service delivery in many of our municipalities. In most instances, these coalitions is a gentleman's agreement. Among other factors contributing to the challenges of coalitions has been insufficient legal support and governance framework to address internal conflict in South Africa's politics. This we will address with the promulgation of the necessary legislation required to govern coalitions. We are going into the election campaign to win, comrades. President Cyril Ramaphosa emphasized in his message for our National Election Strategy Workshop, calling on us to work to ensure that victory is certain. And our opponents, in most of the time, they misconstrue deliberately this discussion about the hung municipalities as meaning that we are preparing ourselves for coalitions in the next election in 2024. We are not preparing for any coalition. Coalition is a product of the democratic outcome. And in this particular instance, I think it's on basis. Yeah. Ngoba ngathi ndisayibambe kahle. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. The rally voice. So the coalition's approach of the ANC is deliberately been distorted. I want to report to you, comrades, we don't have any discussion with any political party in this country with a view to form coalition governments in 2024. Political parties approach the ANC and they say to the ANC, in 2024, we would like to work with you because you are going to go under 50%. And we listen to them. And I can mention them one by one. And we don't have formal discussions where there is an agreement that in 2024, we will work with any other political party because we are going for outright majority. And we know very well that that majority over the years has not been a given. We work for it, given the challenges that we face all the time. So this is not new. We are the incumbent. We are in charge. We run the country. Everybody, when they open their mouth, they do the easiest and the lazy job of complaining and attacking the incumbent. That's why people are forming political parties like mushrooms, because they've got hope that if they criticize the ANC about the defects in terms of governance, they will make it at least one seat in parliament, at least 2 seats, family, husband and wife, and all of that. So they are hoping for that. With what we see, the shenanigans of Magashule, it's not new. Magashule has long worked inside the ANC for the proliferation of political parties. He formed them. ATM was formed by him. And that decision was taken somewhere in a hotel in Durban. And then that is why he formed a party called ACT. When they formed ATM, the first option was ACT. And then they resorted to the name ATM later. That's why the colors are similar. It's one and the same thing. With some priest from Eastern Cape. When he saw people coming to pray, he thought about a political party. And then he called it ATM. He was assisted by Magashule. And then they formed a lot of political parties that were going to eat from the ANC. That was the objective, with the aim of ensuring that that will lead to the removal of Cyril Ramaphosa as the president. So that's why Ace, when he came into office, the first thing he said to ANC members, give me 5 years. And where is that 5 years now? He's out and he has formed a party. So that's why Fikile answered him and said, uzabe kuphi yena kule 5 years? Ayinikeza abantu njengonobhala who was elected by everybody at conference, and then he gives people ultimatums. So there is nothing new there. They are not going to offer anything. They will do the laziest job of critiquing the ANC without giving an alternative. The Moonsuit arrangement is a conglomeration and the coming together of old chaps who used to work together in the old order. we liberated them. But they now call them Moonsuit, with a view to unseat the African National Congress. But if you go to the content of the Moonsuit, you will realize that that thing is anti-worker, is anti all the progressive policies that we've got. That's what it is. I mean, you can look at them where they govern, how they treat workers. You know the challenges that face the taxi industry in our country. But how they are treated in the Western Cape, don't think is the same as in Johannesburg and other provinces. That because taxi industry operates in the informal, in the fringes of the informal economy, and then you think that, no, it is justified what the DA is doing to them in the Western Cape. There, your car is impounded just for smoking alone inside the car. A policeman come and impound the car, and then they charge them 10,000 to go and get your car back. When you charge a taxi person, they say those are bylaws, 10,000 to go and take the car. You have taken basically the income of the whole week from that particular person. So laws must be enforced, but it's a racist arrangement that seeks to push the taxi industry out in a particular way without a formal agreement on what needs to happen to transform the taxi industry and professionalize it, which is what we are leading as government. So that's what they do where they govern. And this is what they will do if they were to be given power in this particular country. So that is the arrangement that you've got in this country, that people are mobilizing and so on and so on. We are going to work, and we appreciate that NUM over the years have supported the ANC in terms of personnel and resources on the ground, in terms of mobilization. And we will much appreciate that continued working together, because NUM have understood that as much as we've got challenges from time to time, but the interest of the workers are safeguarded through the Tripartite Alliance led by the African National Congress. And nobody else can guarantee that to the workers. And it is against that particular background that we are strengthening the Tripartite Alliance and ourselves, including addressing a whole range of issues that we are facing. Comrades, the load shedding issue, the insecurity of electricity supply, continues to be one of the greatest impediments to the economic recovery. The post-1994 delivery to millions who had no access to electricity put a lot of pressure to an infrastructure that was historically geared to a minority of South Africans. If you understand me correctly, comrades, I want to repeat, the insecurity of electricity supply continues to be one of the greatest impediments to our economic recovery. The post-1994 delivery to millions who had no access to electricity put a lot of pressure to an infrastructure that was historically geared to a minority of South Africans. Over time, this was compounded by poor policy decisions in the past, together with inadequate maintenance, mismanagement, and widespread corruption, which have left our electricity system in a critical state. We are undertaking several far-reaching measures to completely transform the country's energy sector. Apart from the immediate steps to stop state capture at Eskom and rebuild the utility, the government has made significant policy changes to enable a more competitive, reliable, cost-effective, and sustainable electricity industry. The weekly updates by the Minister of Electricity have managed to calm the flaring tempers as people begin to appreciate the huge work that needs to be done to bring Eskom back on track. We have said that load shedding should have been dealt with by the end of this year, and we remain committed to that. Just energy transition, as a matter of principle, the pace and the form of our just energy transition must be informed by our national interest, our developmental needs, and availability of resources. South Africa is well positioned to seize the opportunities of a global transition away from fossil fuels and become a leading player across the value chain of the new emerging industries. However, in the meantime, comrades, we are fully conscious that our base load or uninterrupted supply of electricity is technologically and institutionally reliant on coal. Our displacement of coal must be informed by new baseload sources, whilst we continue also to support the implementation of renewable energy solutions, both for household usage as well as commercially. We have noted that some countries seek to enforce energy solutions that they themselves cannot be reliant on for lack of baseload capacity, whilst consuming our coal exports. We must remain vigilant in defending our national interest and our economy at all material times. However, comrades, I must hasten to say that we remain committed to combating climate change through various proven technological solutions such as carbon capture usage and storage. But we must note, we must not be guinea pigs to experiment unproven solutions to the detriment of our economy. Workers and communities built around mining and coal power stations, and this must be protected. Therefore, the emergence of independent power producers should not be treated as privatization of the sector, but as complementing what we already have and to introduce a renewable technology that will become useful as we make technological advances, among others, on storage technologies in the coming years. We must not be found lagging in this regard. However, baseload generation, transmission, and distribution will remain in the hands of the state. We don't subscribe to the notion that Gwede Mantashe, the Minister of Minerals and Energy, is a fossil fuel dinosaur. On Eskom Reconfiguration, comrades, as the ANC, we have engaged Minister Gordon on the process to reconfigure Eskom. We now we know that much has been said and suggested about the apparent privatization of Eskom. The reconfiguration of Eskom into the 3 units of generation, transmission, and distribution is aimed at efficacy and not privatization. For instance, the transmission utility will be 100% owned by the state and will comply to the Labor Regulations Act. The PFMA and SA Public Company also to the Companies Act. The main reason for the reconfiguration is to enable an independent wheeler of electricity that is not linked to any power generation utility to enable fairness as all other state and private entities can wheel their power on equal market terms through the new transmission utility. We therefore seek to debunk the notion that Eskom will be privatized. The state will continue to strengthen Eskom generation to guarantee baseload production, which simply means uninterrupted supply of a given amount of power. Our national energy security premised on Eskom generation, the expansion of the grid to enable all producers to wheel their power as well as effective distribution. Among the issues we must celebrate, comrades, is the fact that we have increased electricity connectivity to nearly 90% since the dawn of democracy. On illegal connections and illegal mining, but we must be united in condemning sabotage at all levels in this regard, from generation to transmission and distribution, which has worsened load shedding challenges, illegal connections. Those who have sabotaged Eskom generation must face the full might of the law. Similarly, those who steal cables and vandalize transformers effectively sabotage the economy and must likewise face the full might of the law. We have communicated to relevant departments in government that we must stop bemoaning illegal mining and act decisively as the state. We will continue to support transformation in the mining sector, particularly small-scale miners. This must never be confused with acts of illegality that must face the full might of the law. South Africa must cease to repeat the mistakes of the past, where we have the Kimberley hole but little or no evidence of mineral benefits from decades of mining in the area. We must accelerate implementation of the beneficiation strategy, which must lead to rapid industrialization in South Africa. This will help increase jobs and simultaneously help us accrue more revenue from the increased value chain production through economic activities. And the export of finished products. We must encourage our youth to explore opportunities in further processing of minerals, including the jewelry industry premised on precious stones such as diamonds. The current epoch, comrades, calls for the Alliance to unite and accelerate the national democratic revolution. It is clear that more open discussions, taking each other as alliance partners into confidence, and timeous sharing of information on both political and labor issues will ease tensions among us. But our contradictions, comrades, are healthy. And it doesn't mean that in the alliance we must agree with everything. The most important thing about us is to engage politically. And this will be part of our own renewal agenda. The 55th National Conference declared that organizational renewal, therefore, is an absolute and urgent priority. And we may go as far as to say to the survival of our great movement. It is important that we must work together and with unity of purpose in mind. And we must not work for disunity within our organization. And we appreciate the National Union of Mine Workers. And we respect the Union of Mine Workers in terms of your decisions that you take, whatever that you do, including suspending or whatever doing to people. That is within your right and your autonomy. That's like we dismissed one person who formed a political party. So NUM did not say, why do you dismiss him? We dismissed him because he's not even a factory fault. He was not supposed to be born in the ANC. He was not supposed to be born in the ANC. The ANC does not deserve such people. Now, the renewal process cleanses itself. It's like the sea. Kancane kancane, comrades, we are getting there. And we will not even talk about these things. We are very elated because all the people who are giving us trouble inside, now the renewal process cleanses them, and then they can go do their shenanigans where they belong. So we are very elated about that. The good will remain, and they will sustain and defend the revolution. Better few than? Yeah. So that is what is important. We're not dismissing anyone. So we appreciate the fact that NUM can brief us, and if we have views, we can share with NUM. But NUM as an organization, we respect it. as an organization in terms of its decisions and the decisions that you can take. So we respect that part as an organization. So we don't intend to put our hands as an organization. So a view expressed by the national chair elsewhere is probably his feelings, and it must be taken as such. And so you've got a right as your former leader to engage him. Now I sometimes think I'm entitled to the youth league. And I forget that I've left that organization. So whenever they do things, I forget that I'm no longer even young. So I want to get back there. So if you have led an organization for the long time, you will catch feelings about what happens in that organization. But comrades, it's only constructive to engage on these particular matters. And we appreciate the fact that NUM will brief us as the ANC. But nonetheless, as the ANC, we respect the independence of the National Union of Mine Workers. The National Democratic Revolution, comrades, as I conclude, is a program that brings us together. And from time to time, we look at it in terms of, are we on track or are we veering away? And you get to see comrades sometimes without applying the proper tools of analysis. A comrade will tell you that, no, you know, the organization is engaged in coalitions or whatever that is the case. And comrades even confuse themselves about what will happen in this country in 2024. If you know what will happen in this country, you will understand that there will be no government in this country without the ANC. And the ANC leading that particular government. And the ANC will work for its majority. You know what is confusing counter-revolution? And including these mushrooming individuals who are breaking away from us. Makashule is not a breakaway, we dismissed him. And then he went to form a party. Malema is not a breakaway, he was dismissed in the ANC. He was expelled. So what gives these political parties and counter-revolution hopes is this snap election that we had in this country, 2021. And I want to share with you a few facts about it. When we went to that election, and through the decision of the Constitutional Court that determined the date and the period, that meant that the ANC and the Alliance are in trouble. You will remember that. And first, among others, the ANC did not register or registered, but there were issues in terms of candidates' registration. We had to fight that battle because it meant, in terms of the rules, you have lost the elections before you start. That is what it meant. So we had to fight that particular battle. And then, and won that particular battle. And there were problems with regard to the lists in terms of the ANC. People who were nominated as legit candidates in terms of our guidelines. An overzealous individual in the form of a secretary changed the list on the way to registration. Then that brought uproar among communities. Some of the communities, up until the day of the voting, did not go and vote. They were disgruntled because they said, but we did not agree on Mbalula. We agreed on so and so. Hence, we came up with the Motlanthe Commission. And we said to the people, even if it means after the election that the person has won, we will remove them. We'll come back to the communities. Rogue elements were put on the lists against the will of the people and subverting democracy. That ate already in our support base. Organizationally, ill discipline that crept in undermining the processes, aid to the support base of the ANC. There was very little time, comrades, to rectify that mess. We only had 4 weeks to the election, and the date was also not favorable. It was on a Monday. But here are the other factors in the country. Electricity was what it is now. When we were deep in the campaign, there was a problem of electricity. Secondly, we had COVID. Remember, we were not allowed, I think they increased the number to about 1,000 public gathering. We were not allowed to have mass meetings. So we're literally campaigning with 2, 3, 4 people, which is more effective actually. But within 4 weeks, you have had to achieve that. And we couldn't. And you must understand the 46% that we got. How did we get it? I remember I was the head of the election with the president. We addressed, 5 meetings in Putarichab in a day, small meetings. And then we moved from Harry Smith. When we arrived there, comrades, it was a mess. Free State, it was a mess. And then we moved to Bloemfontein, where we won the metro with majority. And then it was also a mess. We addressed 5 meetings in a day. And then we moved to Velkom, where people were waiting for us like Nelson Mandela was coming out of jail. There was no water. There was sewage spilling in the streets and everything else. Such was our campaign, difficult as it was. And people were waiting for Ramaphosa. And I remember when we were in Mangaung, and the protectors came to me and said, the president can't go to Velkom. From here, we are proceeding to Joburg because of the security detail and the flights and everything. The jet, I don't know what was the problem. So I looked at this protector. I said, hey, Menir, we're going to Velkom. And then it was in the afternoon. President said, no, I don't have a problem. I said, we are going to Velkom, President. And I looked at him. And at that time, we had addressed the last meeting in Mangaung, the 6th meeting, in a day. And then we had to push. And we went to Velkom. I'm telling you, we started in Tabong, and we went to Virginia. It was like Mandela is coming out of jail. People were waiting in their numbers for the ANC to come and address them. Now, if you don't understand where that 46% come from, you will not appreciate it. On the other side, there was load shedding. On the week of the election in Davidton, people of Davidton did not have water. And they were expected to go and vote for the African National Congress. They did not. So Soweto is still grappling with electricity as we speak, transformers, and all of those things. We went to Deep Kloof up until Naledi. We addressed people there about electricity and all of that. On the day of the voting, people were just having a holiday and drinking. It was a Monday. And then the rest went to Limpopo with the N1. And then it was a long weekend. They never came back to Gauteng. So such was our story, comrades. And we got 46%. And we've got the highest number of hung municipalities that are basically very negative to the agenda of transformation in this country. As you can see, when we discuss coalitions and having a dialogue, it is out of the framework of the ANC coalition's perspective document. That says that, can the party with majority view at least lead the process of forming government? Today we are sitting with smaller parties, they are leading councils, and person with 1%. We don't have a choice. He says, take it or leave it. And then we make that person. Now we have to defend this mayor. Abanye kuthiwa abafundanga and so on. Kuthiwa nithatha njani umuntu ongafundanga nimenza umayor waseGauteng. It's not our problem, Johannesburg. It's what the voter has given us. But if it was according to us who have a majority, we will work with others to constitute. So smaller parties, about Mr. 1%, ngaba bangayifuniyo le amendment. In that dialogue, that's what they say. Now, In terms of 2024, we are not negotiating with anyone to form a coalition government. We know that the ANC will be in a respectable position to continue to govern decisively and through hard work and addressing the challenges that are facing our people. We have had a difficult 5 years, comrades, very difficult one. And they don't want us to talk about it. And on the other hand, I said the SABC was the added opposition. And comrades said to me, no, leave the media, which was the truth. Because the SABC ran a campaign in which it then became the opposition, up until the day of the voting. Basically, there's nothing wrong to expose lack of delivery. Let me put it that way. There is everything wrong to entertain as a public broadcaster a notion that we will not vote and demobilize people from doing the right thing to go and vote. And then you sustain that. Because at the end of the day, you equally have got the responsibility to the citizens, which is a social responsibility to conscientize people to get up and vote. That's what is important. But you can't sustain a notion of no voting. Amidst the service delivery that is exposed, the message should be, let's go and vote in our numbers. And that's what is important. So I'm saying to you, comrades, that it is not claiming easy victories or running away from the fact that what counter-revolution and everybody says, that we are going down to 50%, which is informed by that snap election. We know as the ANC that we have always worked hard. And the other day I said, you know, the fact that they were polling at 40, 50%, it's a shock because the mood in the country is not right. People don't have electricity. And then we've just passed a difficult stage of a winter with load shedding. Kids have got to go to school. People want to watch football, and that team, Kaizer Chiefs, that loses every weekend. And then now they can't see it and all of that. That thing affects the mood of the country, and they want to see Orlando Pirates that wins so nicely every week, and then they want to see it. So you can tell who supports what here. So I realized, no, I'm in a meeting of Kaizer Chiefs fans. I can see. Yeah, so we are a minority. So that affects the mood of the country. So when you come and ask people if we were to vote today, and then you don't convince them through the work, they will obviously say, mina angiboni ngivotelani. And umuntu okhuluma lonto, comrades, ukhuluma lonto ephakathi kwendlu ye-RDP. Ukhuluma lonto angazange wambona ugesi. Ugesi uzisiwe ANC. Usho lokho because of the material conditions. At that moment, that person forgets everything. The ANC have intervened through poverty alleviation programs. People forget because of what is around them at that particular moment. And that's what they hang on. Ukuthi bazawuguqula abantu bakuthi ukuthi bahambe embuthweni. At best, what they are betting for is that people must not come out and vote like the last election. But if they come, they must vote for them. So, sinexanduva ke lokuthi njengombutho, we must be amongst our people because we know what is coming if ever we do not win. We know how the loss of the ANC will affect the African revolution. All these reactionaries and puppets in this continent, you will see them with their long tails everywhere. The ANC is not a reactionary party. We might have problems with ZANU-PF, but in Zimbabwe, you must know what is progressive and our ally is ZANU-PF. And reactionaries do not want us to say that. Nelson Chamisa and his allies are not our allies. They don't speak our language. They are not with us in this new world order agenda of the alternative, multipolar world we want to build. They are not with us. They are with the neoliberals and the liberal agenda in the world. As the ANC, we don't subscribe to that. We are anti-imperialist. So any political party that perpetuates the entrenchment of neocolonialism and imperialism is not our ally. It's not our ally. Our allies can be committing blunders, including the former liberation movements, but they remain our allies. These political liberation movements. You go to Nicaragua and the Sandinistas, they came back after 20 years. You know, if we were to lose power, comrades, we will never come back easily because development and boom of this economy is coming. And those who will win, they will look like they are nice guys who understand where this country is going. Ingumsebenzi we ANC. It's easy for anyone to open their mouth and criticize because that's what you suffer as an incumbent. That's what you suffer as an incumbent. Your task as an incumbent is to stay true to what you are supposed to do. That's why, as I conclude, we must never be tolerant to people who are deployed but are not doing the right things. And we must never keep quiet. You, comrades of NUM, you must never be silent when we in the ANC, including our ministers, singomavuka bazenzele. Bona umuntu esenza into pha ungakwazi uyi-explain awuteketa hengengengengengeng. You don't know what this comrade is doing. Thina eLuthuli House siyiphelisile loo nto. Minister pronounces something that we suspect is wrong. Siyambisa? Izapha. Uyithatha phi le nto uyithethayo? And we will not apologize for that. We don't want to make problems for our president, but he's also our deployee. And then ministers in their portfolios, they like to do things, experiments. We are about experiment njenge future yethu. Simjongile. Ningabayeki ma comrade. Nibuye nize apha nithi SG nabu bugqirha bungenile apha. Asiyazi lento iyapi. It's not been reactionary, it's sustaining the revolution. It's sustaining the revolution. And you also have a right to call them in your line function. You've got the right to engage with our ministers. If they don't want to be engaged, you must tell us. Ningazu debate nathi ukuthi niqotha General Secretary must start a revolution. Ukuthi revolution yonakala Mbalula njengobuhle lapha ngeSuthu iyamka eLuthuli House masiyilungise ngolhlobo nolhlobo. That's what we were elected for, because the ANC must be stronger. Luthuli House must be stronger. The alliance must be stronger. And that is why we go to the people with a manifesto of the alliance. And if we deviate from that manifesto, you have the right to call us and say, Comrade SG, we've got empirical evidence that these comrades are basically deviating from what we agreed must happen. And then sibabize ke sibabeka apho ukuthi aninayo lo mandate, asizube si-arguisha ne-deployee. Siyixelele ezimpondweni ukuthi lo mandate ayinayo amboyirhoxisa. Because we know some of them, shame, it is not their fault, they are run by civil servants. Yeah, civil servants who don't know the agenda of the... A civil servant must implement the manifesto of the winning party. That's what they must implement. Some of them, beniku government, kunyengezela into umnyengezo nje, awinanexesha loyifunda ubile qhopho. Uyo address into ye-train. Xa ujongayo ngaphuva ngama-comrade ekufonela ukuthi hey Mbalula niyathengisa. Ngantoni ngoku? No, yintoni le nto? Woyika nomxelela ukuthi andikayifundi. Woyika noxelela le comrade ukuthi khawume ndizawubuyela kuwe. Uyabona khawume ndizawubuyela kuwe ulwa nestaff pha. Ivelaphi le nto? So you must understand what it means to be in power. We've got experience. So when we go to Dobsonville, we go to the provinces, and then we still are going to account for 30 years. what we did, what is our story, not just a good story to tell, the good and the bad of the 30 years. The good and the bad of the 30 years of freedom. Not the story that is being told that this country was better under apartheid. Under apartheid, I lived in the rural areas, in the farms, and there was no electricity. I lived there. Nah. I am the example. Under apartheid, I walked 5 kilometers to school without food. Under apartheid, at primary school. Under apartheid, today, we provide transport. We give food. Except lama sela ambesimosha sometimes by kimali yabantwana. And then laba basimosha yonge get transport yabantwana. Today we provide those things. Don't tell us about apartheid. It means you are a cheese boy or a cheese girl. You lived good under apartheid. When? Tina asiyazi into phila kamandi under apartheid. Under apartheid, estratweni, when we arrived in these townships, safike eButshabelo ngo-1979, in our street besifola iline ombombozi bame ngeli hlobo sifolele itepe eyi-1 in a street kubethwa inqindi pha uke wajampa umuntu ufakwa inqindi kufolelwe itepe i-ANC yayitshintsha loo nto yathatha ezitepe yazifaka ezindlini zabantu yafaka ugesi yamfaka nditsho nasemkhukhwini abantu i-load shedding bafanele ukhala ngayo because sayiphelisa into yokuthi abantu babase imbawu la emikhukhwini batsarhwe because baba nezitofu ngoku zofudumeza emikhukhwini yabo apha bahlala khona ndakhulela emkhukhwini ndiyayazi lo mpilo ndathi ndiphume emkhukhwini u-ANC wayefake i-prepaid meter in our mkhukhu ndathi igesi uyangena emkhukhwini ndaqala ndayibona loo nto ngo-ANC sisakha izindlu nanamhlanje. That's what this 30 years has been about. Yes, of course, bekhona indlela yophuma endleleni. Yabona abantu basuke nje baphuma endleleni savelelwa zinto ze state capture into kaSathane nje. Yasivelela sabona sivelelwe. Ngoba abantu be-ANC siyathanda umosha ezihlalweni. Kube nzima umkhupha uMbalula ngoba wonyulwe inkomo. Funeka silinde enye inkomfa ezayo. Uyabona ngoku ke ndamosha gqithi akho nto ninondenza yona. Ngaphandle kokuthi mhlambe ndibanjwe ndibethwe nge-step aside njengomarhashule. Simtyile i-step aside lamfo. Uyabona samnqunqa and simnqunqe kamandi ndaye ndixolile because ube mosha embuthweni. He was messing up the organization. Now ngaphandle kwalonto nixakana nomuntu apha nizamthini unixelela ngeconstitution ngelo xesha irevolution iyatshona ngaba bantu. So we want, comrades, as I conclude our as we appreciate also this invite, that we must exercise this thing in word and in deed, vigilance. We must be vigilant, but vigilance must be informed by theory. Understanding, like you only call usiye ecaweni. Angeke ube ugosa ecaweni ungayazi iBhayibheli. Ungayazi ukuthi iqala ngoGenesis iphelela iOld Testament ngeRevelations 10. Ufike nje uphathe ukuthi hayi ngugosa ecaweni. Doesn't happen. Apha kwa ANC siphathwa ngabantu abangayazi nokuthi basisaphi. Ya ubona umuntu wonyuliwe uthi siyapi ke eqabani. Uphethe nje uyaqhuba unyuliwe ngusihlalo leadership uyabuliswa qala ukuthi muetapile jonga umthena wayibona ki muetapile hayi tsamaya muetapile asatsibing le theory ya mzabalazo uri bathu bayisa kae inkokheli yakhokhela I complain nomuntu wonke iyakhokhela inkokheli yahabulisa ayidino uyabona kufana nomuntu okhokhela abantu abangengomaqobhoka akadinwa unitsalela kulento yokucinga bafana yena uqobhokile wazi iBhayibheli wazi indlela aphi yakhona uzawuhlala enimele ngalonto and you never give up. Priests, pastors, they don't give up. Tina, we must never give up on our people. We must provide leadership. We must engage them. If we don't, uchaba lizahamba nababantu. Lizahamba nababantu, and then funeka singene sibacenge sithethe nabo ezindlini zabo. Ngoba at the moment we are in, need that out of us. And we know that the National Union of Mine Workers, when COPE was formed, which has now died a natural death, I was with you, comrades, in the Eastern Cape. In the rural areas of the Eastern Cape, I was with you in Port Elizabeth. Silanda la vote. Dilanda nabasebenzi abangekho ezilistini eziye parliament. Bezincamile. I-NUM ikhuphe imali yabasebenzi si campaigner on the ground. Hayi lama wequ ajikelezisa ilist afuna unyulu ye parliament umuntu xa kagqiba unyula unyamalala lo mina. Dithi mna le vote si vote yabasebenzi. Ndiyayazi lonto. Sihla sinyuka, siquqa pha Eastern Cape. Bathi abasebenzi, Comrade Mbalula, sifuna rural areas thina. Usawubuya after elections bhuti, sikhulule. Siba deploy abasebenzi bachone khona. Ibuye le vote sinilibale emva kokho. So akufunekanga siyenze lonto because thina asilibali. Siyayazi ukuthi le vote ye-ANC iphuma ebunzimeni. Ayonto nje kufuneka kudlalwe ngayo. That is why abantu abadlala nge-ANC nabantu abadlala ngevote akufunekanga sibanyamezele embuthweni. Akufunekanga tu sibanyamezele abantu abamoshayo because ababantu abayazi ukuthi simele abantu abanjani njengombutho. So if you don't have that consciousness as a leader, it will be easy for you to do anything you like about the ANC, including the option of living. Uyabona, mna ndinamacomrade apha endiwabonayo abanye ababanintsanga abahlukunyezwa gqithi kwa-ANC, but umntu amele bucala usamile akayi kwenye political party, but umbone lo comrade uyahlukunyezwa lo, but he has never taken an option. Uyabona xa ndiconcluda ke Maqabane for real, uyabona uMagashule kudala ipheka lento yakhe because wafakwa kwi-DC and kula DC wafakwa ndim ndandime pha kula DC amacomrade atshone vela ndathi lo mfo yamosha lo waya pha akakwazi kwathiwa kuye phendula akaphendula ebeyazi le ndlela kudala iphonononga lento afuna uyenza and so on. But funeka sivuyele ukuthi ngoku ivuthiwe lembiza siyayazi ukuthi sidila nantoni. So aba bantu abakade besimosha belapha bazawuhamba ke abanye babo baye phaya, but ubuninzi abantu abalungileyo balombutho bazawuhlala and sizayidefenda le revolution akho ngxaki. So ndiyabulela ke President ne-National Executive Committee ngethuba lisinike lona amandla awethu. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade